Dr. Lucas Grant rubbed his tired eyes as he checked the final data readout on his lab screen. It had been another long shift at the Cascade Point Medical Research Station, studying how different alien species processed pain and sensory information. The work was important, but exhausting. He saved his files and stood up, stretching his sore back. The lab was quiet at this hour. Most of the other researchers had gone home hours ago. Lucas grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair and was about to turn off the lights when the door burst open with a sharp hiss. A young Velthine female stumbled into his lab. Her crystalline body caught the fluorescent light and scattered it in desperate, flickering patterns. The Velthine were usually calm and controlled, their movements precise and measured. But this one was different. Her angular hands trembled, and her faceted eyes were wide with something Lucas had never seen in a Velthine before. Panic. "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "Please, you have to help me. You have to help my mother." Lucas moved toward her quickly. "Hey, it's okay. Slow down. What's wrong?" The young Velthine grabbed his arm. Her crystalline fingers were cold and sharp against his skin. "My mother, she's dying. The doctors don't know what's wrong with her. They can't help her. But she keeps saying your name. Over and over. She won't stop saying your name." Lucas felt his heart skip a beat. "My name? What do you mean she's saying my name?" "Lucas Grant. She whispers it even though she's unconscious. The doctors think she's delirious, but I looked you up in the station directory. You're real. You work here. Please." "You have to come see her. Maybe you know something. Maybe you can help." "I don't understand," Lucas said carefully. "I've never met your mother. Are you sure she's saying my name specifically?" The young Velthine made a sound that might have been a sob. Her species didn't cry like humans did, but her whole body was vibrating with distress. "I'm sure. Please, she's all I have. If you ever helped anyone, please help her now." Lucas had been a doctor long enough to recognize genuine desperation. He grabbed his medical bag and followed the young Velthine out of the lab. As they hurried through the station's corridors, she told him her name was Shira. Her mother was named Valessa, and she had collapsed 3 days ago without warning. The Xeno Hospital was a 10-minute walk from Lucas's lab. They ran it in 5. Inside, the hospital was filled with the soft hum of medical equipment designed for a dozen different species. The Velthine medical wing glowed with the special ultraviolet lighting that the crystalline species found comforting. Shira led Lucas to a private room at the end of a long hallway. 2 Velthine doctors stood outside the room, speaking in low tones. They looked up as Shira and Lucas approached. "This is Dr. Lucas Grant," Shira said quickly. "The human my mother keeps calling for." The older of the 2 Velthine doctors studied Lucas with neutral curiosity. "I am Dr. Venn. Your arrival is unexpected but perhaps fortunate. The patient Valessa has indeed been speaking your name repeatedly. We assumed it was meaningless vocalization due to her condition, but if you actually exist, perhaps there is a connection we do not understand." "What's wrong with her?" Lucas asked. Dr. Venn's crystalline body dimmed slightly, a sign of confusion in his species. "We do not know. 3 days ago she collapsed during a normal work shift. Since then she has been in what you humans might call a coma. But her neural patterns are highly unusual. They do not match any known Velthine illness or injury." "Can I see her?" Dr. Venn stepped aside. "Of course." Lucas entered the room with Shira close behind him. The lighting was dim, calibrated for Velthine comfort. On the bed lay a tall, angular figure made of translucent crystal that pulsed faintly with internal light. Her faceted surface caught the dim glow and fractured it into tiny rainbows. As Lucas approached the bed, he heard it. A whisper, soft and repetitive. "Lucas Grant, Lucas Grant." The voice was feminine and weak, barely audible, but it was definitely saying his name. Lucas felt a strange sensation wash over him. He had never seen this woman before, he was certain of it, and yet as he looked at her, something in his mind stirred. It wasn't quite recognition, but it was close, like seeing a stranger and feeling somehow that you knew them. "I don't understand," he said quietly. "I've never met her." Shira moved to the other side of the bed. She placed her hand gently on her mother's arm. "Are you absolutely sure? Maybe a long time ago." Lucas thought back through the years. He had been at Cascade Point for only 2 years. Before that, he had worked at several other stations and facilities. Could he have met Valessa somewhere and forgotten? No. He would have remembered. The Velthine were not common away from their home systems, and Lucas had a good memory for faces, even alien ones. "I'm sorry," he said. "I really don't remember her." Dr. Venn entered the room behind them, carrying a data tablet. "Dr. Grant, with your permission, I would like to run some comparative scans. Perhaps there is a biological connection we are missing." "Of course, whatever helps." As Dr. Venn prepared his scanning equipment, Lucas studied the medical monitors around Valessa's bed. The readouts were partially in Velthine script, but he could read enough to understand the basics. Her vital signs were stable but weak. Her neural activity showed strange fluctuations. Then he saw something that made him freeze. On one of the monitors was a detailed neural scan of Valessa's brain structure. The Velthine brain was normally a beautiful, crystalline lattice, perfectly geometric and orderly. But Valessa's scan showed something different. Woven throughout the crystalline structure were organic-looking patterns. They almost looked like... "Are those human neural patterns?" Lucas asked sharply. Dr. Venn looked up from his equipment. His body language suggested surprise. "You can see that?" "Yes, we noticed that as well. It is highly unusual. Velthine neurology should not contain such structures." Lucas moved closer to the screen, his medical training taking over. The patterns were definitely human in origin. Not metaphorically human, but actually structured like human neural pathways. It was impossible, or it should have been. "How is this possible?" he asked. The younger Velthine doctor spoke for the first time. "The patient's medical file indicates she participated in an experimental program 15 years ago. The details are classified, but the program involved neurological research." 15 years ago. Lucas felt something click in his mind. 15 years ago, he had been a graduate student working at the Meridian Research Facility. He had spent 2 years there working on his doctoral thesis about cross-species neural mapping. "Can I see her full medical file?" Lucas asked. Dr. Venn hesitated. "Much of it is restricted." "Please. If she's calling my name, there has to be a reason." The doctor considered this, then nodded. He pulled up Valessa's file on his tablet and handed it to Lucas. Lucas scrolled through quickly, looking for anything familiar. Most of the recent entries were routine medical checkups, but then he found it. 15 years ago, Valessa had participated in something called Project Harmony at the Meridian Research Facility, the same facility where Lucas had done his doctoral work. The project name had been heavily redacted, but the facility code was still visible. Lucas recognized it immediately. He had walked past that restricted wing every day for 2 years without knowing what happened inside. On the bed, Valessa stirred slightly. Her whisper grew stronger. "Lucas Grant, help me. Lucas Grant." Shira looked at him with desperate hope in her faceted eyes. "You know something, don't you? Please tell me you can help her." Lucas stared at the medical file, his mind racing. Whatever Project Harmony had been, it had put human neural patterns into Valessa's brain, and somehow those patterns were connected to him specifically. But how? And why was it failing now, 15 years later? He looked up at Shira and saw not just a desperate daughter, but 3 younger children peeking through the doorway behind her. Valessa's other children, all watching him with silent hope. "I don't know if I can help," Lucas said honestly, "but I'm going to try. I need to find out what happened 15 years ago. I need to understand what Project Harmony did to your mother." Dr. Venn nodded slowly. "We will provide whatever assistance we can." Lucas pulled out his communication device and began making calls. He needed access to old research archives. He needed to know what experiments had been conducted at Meridian 15 years ago, and most importantly, he needed to understand why a dying Velthine woman was calling his name. Lucas sat in the station's archive room at 3 in the morning, surrounded by old research files displayed on multiple screens. His eyes burned from exhaustion, but he couldn't stop searching. Somewhere in these records was the answer to why Valessa was dying and why she kept saying his name. He had already gone through hundreds of documents from his time at Meridian Research Facility. Most were boring, routine reports about neural mapping studies, but he knew there had to be more. Project Harmony had existed in that facility at the same time he was there. Someone had to have left a trail. Finally, buried deep in a subfolder marked as Archived Graduate Student Data, Lucas found something. It was a research proposal he had submitted during his first year at Meridian. He had been studying how different species processed emotions and formed memories. For the study, he needed baseline neural scans from healthy subjects of various species. Lucas remembered now. He had volunteered to have his own brain scanned as a human baseline. It was standard practice. Researchers often used their own data to save time and money. He had spent 3 hours in a neural scanner while machines mapped every detail of his brain structure. He thought those scans had just been used for his own research. He had been wrong. Lucas pulled up another file, this one much more heavily encrypted. It took him 20 minutes to break through the security using his old faculty access codes that somehow still worked. When the file finally opened, his blood ran cold. Project Harmony had been a secret program running parallel to the regular research at Meridian. While Lucas and other graduate students studied neural patterns, a separate team had been trying something far more ambitious. They wanted to create neural bridges between species. They wanted to give aliens the ability to feel emotions the way humans did. The project had used neural scan data from the facility's researchers as templates. Lucas's scans had been copied without his knowledge and used as the foundation for emotional processing centers in willing alien subjects. Valessa had been one of those subjects. Lucas read through the medical notes with growing horror and fascination. Valessa had volunteered for the program when Shira was just a baby. The notes said she suffered from a genetic condition common in some Velthine families. Her brain couldn't form proper emotional bonds. She could understand logically that she should love her daughter, but she couldn't actually feel it. For a parent, it had been torture. The notes described Valessa holding her newborn baby and feeling nothing but cold, logical acknowledgement of responsibility. She had been desperate for help. Project Harmony had offered her a solution. They took Lucas's neural patterns for emotional processing and carefully integrated synthetic copies into her crystalline brain structure. The procedure had been experimental and risky, but it had worked. The notes from 15 years ago showed the success. After the treatment, Valessa reported feeling love for the first time in her life. She could cry tears of joy. She could feel the warm contentment of holding her child. The human neural patterns had given her something her own biology couldn't provide. But now, 15 years later, those patterns were breaking down. Lucas heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see Shira standing in the doorway of the archive room. She looked exhausted and worried. "You've been here all night," she said quietly. "Did you find anything?" Lucas gestured to the screens. "I found everything. I know what happened to your mother." Shira moved closer, her crystalline body reflecting the blue glow of the monitors. "Tell me." Lucas explained what he had discovered. As he talked, he watched Shira's reactions carefully. The young Velthine listened without interrupting, her faceted eyes fixed on his face. When he finished, Shira was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "I never knew. Mother never told me about the treatment." "She probably wanted to protect you," Lucas said gently. Shira made that sound again, the one that was almost like crying. "Do you know what it's like, Dr. Grant, to grow up Velthine? Our people are brilliant. We can calculate complex mathematics in our heads. We can see patterns in data that computers miss. But we don't feel things the way other species do. We understand emotions logically, but we don't experience them." She turned to look at him directly. "I remember my mother being different from other Velthine parents. She would hug me just because she wanted to, not because it was the logical thing to do. She would cry when I was hurt. She would laugh at silly things. I thought she was strange. Other Velthine children's parents weren't like that, but I loved her for it. She made me feel special." "That was the treatment working," Lucas said softly. The human neural patterns gave her the ability to feel those emotions genuinely. And now it's killing her? Lucas nodded. The synthetic neural patterns are degrading. It's been 15 years, and the organic-synthetic interface is breaking down. Her brain is essentially attacking the human patterns as foreign material. If we can't stabilize them, she'll lose everything the treatment gave her. She might even lose her basic neural function entirely. Shira's whole body seemed to dim with despair. Can you help her? Can you stop it? I don't know, Lucas admitted. I'm not a neurosurgeon. I study neural patterns, but I've never done anything like this before. Your mother needs someone who can work with both Velthine and human neurology at the same time. But you understand the patterns better than anyone, Shira said urgently. They came from your brain. You know how they're supposed to work. Lucas stood up and paced across the small room. His mind was racing through possibilities, most of them dangerous. There might be a way. If we could create a direct neural link between me and your mother, I could potentially reinforce the degrading patterns. Use my active neural structure to stabilize hers. Then do it. Shira, you don't understand. This has never been tested. A direct neural link between a human and a Velthine has never been attempted. It could damage both our minds permanently. I could end up in a coma right next to your mother. But there's a chance it could work? Lucas hesitated. The scientist in him wanted to say the risks were too high, but he thought about his own mother, who had died from a neurological condition when he was young. He remembered feeling helpless, watching her fade away while doctors tried treatment after treatment that didn't work. He had become a doctor because of that helplessness. He had promised himself he would help people that other doctors couldn't save. There's a chance, he said finally. A small one. Shira moved closer to him. My mother has 3 other children besides me. They're younger. They don't remember a time before she could love them. If she loses her emotional capacity, if she goes back to being cold and logical, it will destroy them. They won't understand. Lucas thought about those 3 small faces he had seen peeking through the doorway at the hospital. Children who had grown up with a mother who hugged them and sang to them and cried when they were sad. They had no idea their mother's love had been given to her by an experimental treatment. I need to talk to Dr. Cora Wynn, Lucas said. She's the best neurosurgeon on this station. If anyone can help me set up a safe neural link, it's her. How long will that take? Lucas checked the time. It was almost 4 in the morning. A few hours to find her and explain the situation. Then maybe 6 to 8 hours to prepare for the procedure. We need to move fast, though. According to these medical notes, once the degradation reaches a certain point, it becomes irreversible. How much time does my mother have? Lucas pulled up the latest neural scans that Dr. Venn had sent him. He studied the patterns carefully, comparing them to the baseline scans from 15 years ago. The degradation was accelerating. 12 hours, he said quietly. Maybe less. Shira's body pulsed with distressed light patterns. Then we have to start now. Lucas gathered his research files and transferred them to a portable drive. As he worked, a thought occurred to him. Shira, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Your mother, when she could finally feel emotions, what was she like? Shira's voice became softer, warmer. She was wonderful. She would watch human families at the station and cry because she found them beautiful. She told me once that before the treatment, she knew logically that a sunset was aesthetically pleasing, but she never felt moved by it. After the treatment, she would stand and watch sunsets and feel this deep contentment. She said it was like being blind her whole life and suddenly being able to see colors. Lucas felt a lump in his throat. His neural patterns had given this woman the ability to experience joy and love. Now, those same patterns were killing her. We're going to save her, he said with more confidence than he felt. I promise you, Shira, I'm going to do everything I can. I believe you, Shira said simply. They left the archive room together and headed toward Dr. Wynn's quarters. The station was still quiet in the early morning hours. Lucas's mind was already working through the technical challenges of creating a neural link. It would be dangerous and unprecedented, but it was Valesa's only chance. As they walked, He wondered what it would feel like to have his mind connected directly to hers. Would he experience her emotions? Would she experience his? And what would happen to both of them when the procedure was over? He didn't have answers, but he knew he had to try. Dr. Cora Wynn stared at Lucas like he had lost his mind. They were standing in her office, and Lucas had just finished explaining his plan to create a direct neural link with Valessa. The neurosurgeon set down her coffee cup and shook her head slowly. "You want to do what exactly?" she asked. "A neural bridge between me and Valessa," Lucas repeated. "It's the only way to stabilize the degrading patterns in her brain." "Lucas, we've never connected a human brain directly to a Velthine brain before. The basic structures are completely different. Your brain is organic tissue. Hers is crystalline lattice. The interface alone could cause catastrophic damage to both of you." "I know the risks." Cora stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was starting to rise over Cascade Point's red desert landscape. "Do you? Because I don't think you do. When I say catastrophic damage, I mean you could both end up brain dead. Or worse, you could end up trapped in some kind of permanent confused state, unable to tell where your mind ends and hers begins." Lucas had already thought about these possibilities during the long walk from the archives. "What happens if we do nothing?" "Valessa dies or loses all emotional capacity," Cora said bluntly. "I read the scans, Doctor, Ven sent over. The degradation is accelerating. She has maybe 10 hours left before it becomes irreversible." "Then we have to try." Cora turned back to face him. Her expression was serious but not unkind. "Lucas, why are you doing this? You didn't even know this woman existed until last night. You don't owe her anything." Lucas thought about how to explain it. He thought about his mother's funeral when he was 12 years old. He thought about standing beside her grave and promising himself that he would help people that other doctors gave up on. He thought about Shira's desperate face and those 3 small children who didn't know their mother's love was killing her. "My sister Amy always says I became a doctor for the wrong reasons," he said quietly. "She says I'm trying to save everyone because I couldn't save our mother." Maybe she's right. But if I can help Valessa, if I can give her more time with her children, then maybe my reasons don't matter. Cora studied his face for a long moment. Then she sighed. "You're going to do this whether I help you or not, aren't you?" "Yes." "Then I guess I better make sure you don't kill yourself in the process." She moved to her computer and started pulling up files. "We'll need to bring in Then from the Velthine medical team. He specializes in crystalline neurology. Between the 3 of us, maybe we can build something that won't completely destroy both your brains." Relief flooded through Lucas. "Thank you, Cora." "Don't thank me yet. We have a lot of work to do and not much time." The next 6 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Lucas, Cora, and the Velthine specialist Then worked together to design a neural interface that could safely connect human and Velthine brain structures. The technology existed for simple data transfer, but what they needed was far more complex. They needed a bridge that would allow Lucas's active neural patterns to reinforce and stabilize Valessa's degrading ones. During a brief break, Lucas called his sister Amy back on Earth. The communication delay was about 20 seconds each way, which made conversation awkward, but he needed to hear her voice. "Lucas, it's 5 in the morning here," Amy said when her image appeared on the screen. She was in her pajamas, her hair messy from sleep. "This better be important." "I need to tell you something," Lucas said, "in case something goes wrong." Amy's expression shifted from annoyed to worried in an instant. "What's going on?" Lucas explained the situation as briefly as he could. When he finished, there was a long pause while the signal traveled to Earth and back. Then Amy spoke, her voice tight with emotion. "You're really going to risk your life for a stranger?" "She's not a stranger anymore. Her children need her, Amy, just like we needed Mom." Another pause. Then Amy's eyes filled with tears. "Mom would be proud of you. She always said you had the biggest heart of anyone she knew. Just please be careful, okay? I already lost Mom. I can't lose you too." "I'll be careful," Lucas promised, though he wasn't sure it was a promise he could keep. "I know why you're doing this," Amy said softly. And you're right. If you can help her, you should try. Just come back to me in one piece. The call ended, and Lucas returned to the preparation room. The neural interface equipment was almost ready. It looked like a crown of delicate wires and sensors designed to fit both human and Velthine head shapes. The actual connection would be managed by sophisticated computers that would translate between the two completely different neural architectures. Shira arrived with her 3 younger siblings. The children were small, their crystalline bodies still developing their full facets. They looked at Lucas with wide, curious eyes. "Are you really going to save our mother?" the smallest one asked. Lucas knelt down to the child's level. "I'm going to try my very best." "Mother says humans are special because they feel things very strongly," the child continued. "She says that's a wonderful gift." Lucas felt his throat tighten. "Your mother is special too. She's very brave." Shira gently moved her siblings back. "Let Dr. Grant work. He needs to concentrate." But before Lucas could stand up, the middle child pressed something into his hand. It was a small crystal, carefully carved into the shape of a heart. "Mother made this. She makes them sometimes when she's happy. Maybe it will help you." Lucas closed his fingers around the small crystal heart. It was warm from the child's touch. "Thank you. I'll keep it safe." Cora appeared in the doorway. "We're ready. They're bringing Valessa to the procedure room now." Lucas followed her down the corridor to a specialized surgical suite. The room had been set up with equipment for both human and Velthine neurology. In the center were 2 chairs positioned facing each other, both equipped with the neural interface crowns. Medical staff wheeled Valessa in on a floating gurney. She was still unconscious, still whispering Lucas's name in that soft, desperate voice. They carefully transferred her to one of the chairs and began attaching monitoring equipment. Lucas sat in the other chair. Cora and Then began placing the neural interface crown on his head. The sensors were cold against his scalp. "Last chance to back out," Cora said quietly. "I'm not backing out." Then attached the matching crown to Valessa's crystalline head structure. The Velthine doctor's hands were steady and precise. "The connection will establish gradually. You will feel disoriented at first. If the pain becomes too severe, we will disconnect immediately." "How will you know if it's too severe?" Lucas asked. "Your vital signs will tell us. Try not to resist the connection. The more you fight it, the more dangerous it becomes." Lucas took a deep breath and nodded. He could see Shira and her siblings watching through the observation window. The smallest child pressed her hand against the glass. "Beginning neural link in 10 seconds, Cora announced. 9, 8, 7. Lucas gripped the arms of his chair. The small crystal heart was still clutched in his left hand. 3, 2, 1. Initiating connection. At first, Lucas felt nothing. Then a strange tingling sensation spread across his scalp. It wasn't painful, just odd, like static electricity dancing over his skin. The tingling grew stronger, deeper, moving down into his skull. Then the world tilted. Suddenly, Lucas was aware of 2 bodies at once. His own, sitting in the chair, and another body that felt completely alien. He could sense Valessa's crystalline structure, feel the way light moved through her faceted form. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Memories that weren't his own began flooding through his mind. He saw Shira as a newborn, tiny and perfect. He felt the desperate emptiness of holding that baby and feeling nothing but cold logic. Then he felt the treatment taking effect, felt the first time genuine love bloomed in Valessa's chest. The memory was so intense that tears ran down Lucas's face. More memories came in waves. Valessa watching a sunset and crying from pure joy. Valessa singing to her children even though Velthine rarely sang. Valessa standing in a human neighborhood, watching families walk together, feeling a bittersweet ache of belonging to 2 worlds and neither at the same time. Then Lucas felt the degradation. It was like watching a beautiful building slowly crumble. The neural patterns that gave Valessa her emotional depth were breaking apart, fragmenting into useless pieces. He could feel her consciousness trapped inside, desperately trying to hold on to the ability to love her children. "Lucas, your neural activity is spiking," Cora's voice came from far away. "Try to stay calm." But Lucas couldn't stay calm. He pushed deeper into the connection, letting his own active neural patterns flow toward the damaged areas in Valessa's mind. It was like trying to rebuild a bridge while standing on it. Pain exploded through his head. Lucas heard himself cry out, but he didn't pull back. He couldn't. Valessa's consciousness reached for his like a drowning person reaching for a lifeline. In the shared neural space between them, Lucas finally met Valessa. In the neural space, Valessa didn't look like a Velthine. She appeared to Lucas as a woman made of light and shadow, her form shifting between crystalline and human. She reached toward him with hands that flickered between angular facets and organic fingers. "Lucas Grant," she whispered, and her voice echoed through the strange space between their minds. "You came." "I'm here," Lucas said, though he wasn't sure if he was actually speaking or just thinking. "I'm going to help you." "I'm breaking apart," Valessa said, and Lucas could feel her terror as if it were his own. "I can feel the patterns you gave me dying. Soon I won't be able to love my children anymore. I'll go back to being empty inside." Lucas could see what she meant. In this shared space, the neural patterns looked like rivers of light flowing through darkness. But Valessa's rivers were drying up, cracking, turning to dust. His own patterns flowed strong and bright beside hers. "Let me help," Lucas said. He reached out and touched one of the fragmenting patterns. Immediately, he felt a shock of connection. His own neural energy flowed into the damaged pathway, reinforcing it, making it solid again. But as soon as he did, something unexpected happened. Valessa's Velthine neural patterns began flowing back into him. Lucas gasped as suddenly he could see the world the way she did. Mathematical patterns appeared everywhere, beautiful equations describing the movement of light and energy. He could calculate complex problems instantly, see connections between ideas that his human brain had never been able to grasp before. "What's happening?" he asked. "The bridge goes both ways," Valessa said softly. "You're giving me your emotions, but I'm giving you my logic. We're changing each other." Lucas felt a moment of panic. This wasn't supposed to happen. The procedure was meant to save Valessa, not permanently alter both their brains. But then he felt Valessa's hand in his, and her gratitude washed over him like warm water. "Don't be afraid," she said. "What you're giving me is beautiful. What I'm giving you is a gift, too." Lucas forced himself to calm down. He had to focus on saving Valessa first. He could worry about the consequences later. He reached for another fragmenting pattern and poured his neural energy into it, stabilizing it, making it whole. Outside their shared mental space, alarms were ringing. Lucas could hear Cora's voice shouting medical instructions. He could feel his physical body convulsing in the chair. But he couldn't stop now. Valessa needed him. He moved through her mind like a gardener tending dying plants, touching each damaged neural pathway and giving it strength from his own patterns. With each repair, more of Valessa's Velthine logic flowed into his brain. He began to understand things he had never understood before. He could see the precise mathematical beauty in natural phenomena. He could feel the crystalline clarity that came from pure logical thought. But the process was taking its toll. Lucas could feel himself getting weaker. The neural energy he was giving to Valessa was draining him. His own patterns were starting to dim. "Stop!" Valessa said suddenly. "You're giving too much. You'll destroy yourself." "I have to finish," Lucas said, reaching for another damaged pathway. "No!" Valessa pulled away from him. "I won't let you die to save me. My children need their mother, but they don't need another person to die for it." Lucas tried to reach for her again, but she moved further away. In the shared neural space, her form was becoming more solid, more stable. The patterns he had already repaired were glowing brightly, healthy and strong. "It's enough," Valessa said. "What you've given me is enough. I can feel it. The degradation has stopped. I'm stable now." "But you're not completely healed," Lucas protested. He could still see some damaged areas, some patterns that needed reinforcement. "I'm healed enough to live, to love my children, to be myself again. That's all I need." Valessa moved closer to him, and Lucas felt her presence wrap around him like a warm blanket. "Thank you, Lucas Grant. You gave me the ability to feel 15 years ago. Now you've saved that gift. I will never forget what you've done." Lucas wanted to argue, but he was so tired. The neural space began to fade around him. The last thing he saw was Valessa's face, no longer flickering between forms, but settled into something uniquely her own, both Velthine and touched by human warmth. Then the connection broke, and Lucas slammed back into his physical body. He gasped and opened his eyes. The surgical suite spun around him. His head felt like it was splitting open. Every nerve in his body screamed with exhaustion. "He's back," Cora's voice said from somewhere above him. "Lucas, can you hear me?" "Yes," Lucas managed to whisper. "Don't try to move yet. Your brain activity went completely off the charts. We almost disconnected you, but then everything stabilized." Lucas turned his head slowly and saw Valessa in the other chair. Her eyes were open. She was looking at him with an expression of such deep gratitude that it made his chest ache. "Thank you," Valessa said, her voice weak but clear. "Thank you for saving me." Before Lucas could respond, the observation window shattered as Shira pressed against it, her siblings crowding around her. They were all making sounds of joy, their crystalline bodies pulsing with happy light patterns. Cora removed the neural interface crown from Lucas's head carefully. "How do you feel?" Lucas took stock of himself. His head hurt terribly. His body felt like he had run a marathon, but there was something else, something new. He could still feel echoes of Valessa's Velthine logic in his mind. He looked at the medical equipment around the room and suddenly understood the mathematical principles behind their function in a way he never had before. "Different," he said honestly. "I feel different." Then was examining Valessa with his scanning equipment. The Velthine doctor's body language showed surprise. "Remarkable. The degradation has stopped completely. The neural patterns are stable and even stronger than before. How did you do this, Dr. Grant?" "I didn't do it alone," Lucas said. He met Valessa's eyes across the space between their chairs. "We did it together." Cora helped Lucas sit up slowly. His vision swam, but he stayed conscious. Shira and her siblings were allowed into the room, and they immediately surrounded their mother's chair. Valessa reached out and pulled them all close, tears of crystalline dust falling from her eyes. "My babies," she whispered. "My beautiful babies." The smallest child looked up at Lucas. "You saved her! You really saved her!" Lucas smiled despite his exhaustion. "She saved herself, too. She's very strong." Over the next hour, as Lucas recovered enough to stand, the full extent of what had happened became clear. The neural bridge had worked, but it had done more than just stabilize Valessa's patterns. It had created a permanent low-level connection between Lucas and Valessa's minds. "You can feel each other's strong emotions across distances," Then explained, studying the scan results. "It's not telepathy, but it's a form of empathic resonance. This has never been documented between different species before." Lucas tested it. He focused on Valessa and immediately felt a warm pulse of gratitude and affection. When he looked at her, she smiled and nodded. "I can feel you too," she said softly. But there were other changes. Lucas found he could solve mathematical problems with speed and accuracy that should have been impossible for a human. His logical reasoning had been enhanced dramatically, and when he looked at Valessa, he could see that she was moving with a grace and emotional awareness that went beyond what the original treatment had given her. They had changed each other permanently. News of the successful procedure spread through the medical station quickly. Within hours, Dr. Venn contacted them with urgent information. Valessa wasn't the only Project Harmony subject experiencing neural degradation. There were 7 others scattered across different worlds, all facing the same collapse of their synthetic human neural patterns. "Their families are desperate," Dr. Venn said. "Can the procedure be repeated for them?" Lucas and Cora exchanged glances. The procedure had been dangerous and unprecedented. Lucas had nearly died. but it had worked. "We need to develop better protocols," Cora said carefully. "What Lucas did was incredibly risky. We need to make it safer before we can offer it to others." "But it is possible?" Shira asked hopefully. "Other families could be saved like ours was?" Lucas thought about those 7 other people out there, slowly losing their ability to feel emotions. He thought about their families watching helplessly. He knew what he had to do. "Yes," he said, "it's possible. We'll find a way to help them." Valessa reached out and took his hand. Her crystalline fingers were warm now, filled with life and emotion. "Then we'll help together. You gave me this gift twice. Let me help you give it to others." 3 weeks later, Lucas and Valessa stood before the Velthine Science Council on the crystalline homeworld. The council chamber was massive, with walls that caught sunlight and split it into thousands of rainbow patterns. The beauty was breathtaking, but Lucas felt cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. The chamber was filled with the most powerful Velthine in the galaxy, and most of them were not happy. Lucas could feel Valessa's nervousness through their neural connection, a flutter of anxiety that matched his own. Council Elder Thress stood at the center of the chamber, his crystalline form tall and imposing. His voice echoed off the faceted walls. "Dr. Lucas Grant and Valessa, you stand accused of unauthorized biological modification and cultural interference. The procedure you underwent was dangerous, unprecedented, and sets a terrible example for our people." Lucas had prepared for this moment, but actually standing here made his mouth dry. Beside him, Valessa stood straight and dignified. Shira and her siblings sat in the observation area with Dr. Cora Wynn and several human advocates who had come to support them. "Elder Thress," Lucas began, keeping his voice steady, "we understand your concerns, but Valessa was dying. The procedure saved her life." "That is not the issue," Thress replied coldly. "The issue is that you have proven emotions can be artificially introduced into Velthine neurology. This threatens the very foundation of our society. We built our civilization on logic and reason. Emotions make beings weak, unpredictable, and prone to violence." Thress activated a holographic display that showed images of human conflicts throughout history. Wars, riots, acts of violence. "This is what emotions create: chaos and suffering. Why would we want to introduce such instability into our people?" Valessa stepped forward. Her voice was calm but firm. "Elder Thress, may I speak about my experience?" Thress gestured for her to continue, though his body language showed disapproval. "Before the treatment 15 years ago, I held my newborn daughter and felt nothing," Valessa said. "I knew logically that I should protect her, feed her, keep her safe. But there was no warmth in it, no joy. It was like being a machine programmed to care for a child." She paused, and Lucas could feel waves of emotion flowing through their connection. Sadness, gratitude, love. "The treatment gave me the ability to actually love Shira, to feel my heart break when she was hurt, to feel pride when she accomplished something, to cry tears of happiness when she smiled." Valessa's voice grew stronger. "You say emotions make us weak, but loving my children made me stronger than I ever was before. It gave me a reason to live beyond simple logic." Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. Some Velthine looked disturbed by Valessa's words. Others looked curious. An older council member named Shiva spoke up. Her crystalline form was dimmer than the others, showing her advanced age. "I was part of the committee that shut down Project Harmony 15 years ago. I voted to end it because I was afraid of what it might do to our society." She moved closer to Valessa, studying her carefully. "But seeing you now, I wonder if I made that decision out of fear rather than logic. Can you truly say that emotions have made your life better?" "Yes," Valessa said without hesitation. "Before the treatment, I understood that a sunset was beautiful. After the treatment, I could feel moved by that beauty. Before, I knew my children needed me. After, I loved them so much it hurt. That's not weakness. That's being fully alive." Lucas decided it was time to share what he had discovered in the archives. Elder Thress, I found something in the old Project Harmony files. The Velthene weren't always purely logical. Your species had emotional capacity thousands of years ago. Shocked silence filled the chamber. Thress's body flickered with what might have been anger. That is impossible. It's not impossible. It's documented in your own ancient records. Lucas pulled up data on his portable display. Your ancestors deliberately bred out emotional capacity over many generations because they feared it. But the neural architecture for emotions still exists in every Velthene brain. It's just dormant. Even if this is true, it changes nothing, Thress said. Our ancestors made a choice to embrace logic over emotion. That choice made us strong. Did it? Lucas challenged. Or did it make you incomplete? The chamber erupted in arguments. Some council members shouted that Lucas was insulting their entire civilization. Others demanded to see the ancient records he mentioned. Through the chaos, Lucas felt a pulse of encouragement from Valessa through their connection. Finally, Shiva raised her hand for silence. When the chamber quieted, she spoke directly to Lucas. You carry Velthene neural patterns now as well, don't you? The procedure changed you just as it changed Valessa. Yes, Lucas admitted. I can think with a clarity and logical precision I never had before. I can see mathematical patterns in everything. But I didn't lose my emotions. They're still here, just balanced with better logic. He turned to address the full council. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Emotions and logic aren't enemies. They work together. Valessa didn't stop being Velthene when she gained emotions. She became more complete. And I didn't stop being human when I gained your logical clarity. I became better at my work, better at helping others. A younger council member spoke up. But if we allow this treatment to continue, it will change our entire society. Young Velthene will want emotions. Our culture will be transformed. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Shira said from the observation area. All heads turned toward her. The young Velthene stood up, her voice ringing clearly through the chamber. I'm one of the first generation raised by a Velthene parent who could truly feel love. I've seen both worlds, and I can tell you that my mother's emotions never made her less intelligent or less capable. They made her a better parent, a better person. Shira's siblings stood up beside her. The smallest one spoke in a clear, brave voice. Our mother cries when we're sad. She laughs when we're happy. She hugs us just because she wants to. Other Velthene children don't have that. Don't they deserve to have parents who can really love them too? Lucas saw several council members' body language shift at those words. Even beings of pure logic could understand the value of proper child development. Elder Shiva spoke again. I propose we don't make a final decision today. Instead, let us create a voluntary program. Velthene who wish to explore emotional capacity can do so, with proper medical oversight and support. Those who prefer our traditional way can continue as they always have. We give our people the choice. Thress looked like he wanted to argue, but other council members were nodding in agreement. The debate continued for another hour, but slowly a consensus emerged. Finally, Thress announced the decision. The council will allow a limited trial program. Velthene who wish to receive the treatment may do so, but they must understand the risks and changes involved. Dr. Grant and Valessa will oversee the program's medical aspects. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was enough. Lucas felt relief flood through him, and through their connection he felt Valessa's matching joy. After the council session ended, Lucas and Valessa walked through the crystalline gardens outside the council building. The triple suns of the Velthene homeworld cast complex shadow patterns across the geometric pathways. We did it, Valessa said softly. We actually convinced them. You did most of the convincing, Lucas said. Your testimony about loving your children, that's what changed their minds. Valessa stopped walking and turned to face him. Lucas, I need to thank you properly. You saved my life twice. Once 15 years ago with your neural patterns, and again 3 weeks ago when you risked everything to help me. I will never be able to repay that debt. You don't owe me anything, Lucas said. Helping you was the right thing to do. Still, I want you to know what you've done. Because of you, 7 other Velthine who were facing neural degradation will get treatment. Because of you, my children got to keep their mother. Because of you, an entire species is being given the chance to become more than they were. Lucas felt emotion tighten his throat. Through their connection, he could feel Valessa's gratitude as clearly as his own feelings. "We're connected now," he said. "Whatever I did for you, you did for me too. I'm a better scientist because of the Velthine logic you gave me." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, two beings from different worlds who had literally shared pieces of their minds with each other. Shira found them in the garden with her siblings. The children were excited, talking all at once about the council's decision and what it meant for their people. "Does this mean other Velthine children can have parents like ours?" the smallest one asked. "Yes," Valessa said, pulling her children close. "Any Velthine who wants to feel emotions the way I do will have that choice now." Lucas watched the family embrace, and he thought about the journey that had brought him here. A desperate plea in the middle of the night, a dying woman calling his name, a dangerous procedure that had changed both their lives forever. His portable communicator buzzed. It was a message from Dr. Cora Wynn back at Cascade Point. The other Project Harmony subjects were arriving at the station, ready to receive treatment. Lucas and Valessa would need to return soon to help them. "Looks like our work is just beginning," Lucas said, showing Valessa the message. She smiled, and Lucas could feel her determination through their connection. "Then we'll work together. You taught me that the best solutions come from combining different perspectives. Human emotion and Velthine logic, working as partners." As they prepared to leave the Velthine homeworld, Lucas realized something important. He had come here hoping to save one life. Instead, he had helped open a door for an entire species to rediscover a part of themselves they had lost long ago. The human capacity for compassion, for risking everything to help someone in need, for believing that every life deserved to be lived fully and completely, had made all the difference. That was humanity's real gift to the galaxy. Not superior technology or greater strength, but the simple willingness to care deeply enough to change the universe, one person at a time. And sometimes, Lucas thought as he felt Valessa's gratitude pulse warmly through their neural connection, that was the most powerful force of all.